not to IMF quotas, but to development and climate needs. The MDBs and national development banks should be recapitalized and leverage this capital to mobilize 4 to 5 times the amount from the market. In this context, we welcome the bold proposal of the Prime Minister of Barbados in the Bridgerton Initiative. 4 mechanisms must be created to lower the borrowing costs for developing countries. This can be done through facilities such as the Liquidity and Sustainability Facility set up for Africa by the ex-Executive Secretary of the Economic Commission for Africa. 5, developing countries must also make maximum efforts to mobilize significantly larger domestic resources by building their capital markets and enhancing tax coverage and revenues. To this end, the adoption of an equitable international tax regime is essential to prevent tax evasion and profit shifting by multinational corporations, including in digital transactions. Moreover, the illicit exploitation of natural resources is another drain on national revenues, which remains to be effectively addressed at the global and regional level. Second, the climate change agenda and climate commitments must be fully and faithfully implemented in accordance with the principle of equity and common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities. We call on the developed countries to fulfill their pledge to provide $100 billion plus annually in climate finance, allocate half of this to climate adaptation, and urgently operationalize the fund for loss and damage. We must also urge the developed countries to assume the burden of mitigation and reach net zero emissions well before 2050. Third, the transition to a sustainable global economy will require the rapid installation of sustainable infrastructure, energy, transportation, housing, manufacturing, agriculture. An estimated investment of $1 trillion per year is needed. We should welcome initiatives such as China's Belt and Road Initiative and the G7's Global Infrastructure Initiative. We must also develop vehicles which can access private capital for high-quality, sustainable infrastructure investment in developing countries, including through de-risking such initiatives and enabling the MDBs and national development banks to leverage their capital to access private finance. At the same time, the preparation of a sizable portfolio of viable infrastructure projects is indispensable to attract both public and especially private investment. The UN's 125 country offices should be mobilized to help developing countries prepare such high-quality, sustainable infrastructure projects. A multi-stakeholder policy board under the UN auspices would be useful to promote sustainable infrastructure investment. Fourth, the international trading system. The international trading system should be restructured to revive export-led growth in developing countries. This has been the principal route to growth in all successful developing countries. Unfortunately, the traditional advocates of open trade now want to build protectionist walls against an increasingly competitive South. Yet, apart from a few large emerging markets, most developing countries still require preferential, duty-free and non-discriminatory access to industrial country markets. These countries should also be offered the required policy space for industrialization through, e.g., through waivers from TRIPS and TRIMS agreements. And unilateral trade protection and restrictions incompatible with the WTO agreements should be speedily eliminated. Fifth, an international technology agreement aligned with the SDGs should be adopted through inclusive negotiations. It should also offer preferential access for developing countries to relevant advanced technologies and end discriminatory restrictions. It should also focus global research and development resources and capabilities on the scientific breakthroughs which are essential or relevant to achieving the SDGs and environmental objectives. In parallel, it is vital to adopt an equitable international information technology regime which serves to bridge the digital divide and enable the developing countries to leapfrog into the global digital economy of the future. This can be encapsulated in the Digital Global Compact proposed by the Secretary General. Excellencies, what I've outlined is an ambitious yet essential agenda. Our countries cannot realize the SDGs or climate goals unless we make concrete progress on such an agenda. Without such emergency and systemic actions, the development divide will grow into an unbridgeable gulf, transforming our world into a nightmare, a world afflicted by massive human suffering, social and political instability, and proliferating conflicts, even as our planet and our species confront mounting existential threats of a climate catastrophe. This apocalyptic prospect, if nothing else, should generate the political will and solidarity among all nations to act together to save the present and succeeding generations from the scourge of war, pestilence, poverty, and an uninhabitable planet. I thank you.